Hello, welcome to the Summer Spectacle Part 2 video, where we continue going over all the movies I watched in the August of last year. Now, almost to August of this year. Really gotta start getting a handle of uploading these damn things. So without further ado, let's get to Part 2. Number 25 is another cult film that, again, is probably going to give me some flack for putting it this low on the list, and that is The Burning. Yes, the 1980 Friday the 13th ripoff that every slasher was, which ironically Friday the 13th was a ripoff itself, Halloween. It's a vicious circle. This movie, I heard hyped like a motherfucker. People love this movie, and I didn't dislike it. I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I had hoped I would. Which, again, sometimes you set the bar too high, and it's hard to just meet that. And sometimes you go and set it low, and then wham, just hops over it. And it's just a case of it being maybe just a little too high for it to clear. It's about a summer camp groundskeeper who these kids decide would be hilarious if they if they put a severed head in his, or a fake severed head or whatever, in his room, and he caught himself on fire. And now he waits many years to come back at the camp, but all the campers that did that to him are now adults and gone, except for one who's a counselor. So he's killing all these kids, basically, who did absolutely nothing to him. We also get appearance by a young Helen Hunt and a young George Costanza. Jason Alexander, that's the actor's name. Neither of them really have prominent roles in the film, but it's kind of a fun fact that they did do this movie. The scene that this movie is famous for is the raft scene, which is really well done, because we do get Tom Savini effects, and he's great. But where the raft comes up, and he comes up with the shears, cutting people's fingers off and chopping shit left and right. That's a fun scene. I really enjoy it. It's just the whole rest of the movie isn't exactly just, it's an 80s slasher. It's enjoyable. I would watch it again, but I wasn't just like, oh my god, my life is different. Maybe if I had seen this younger, like a lot of people did, I would probably have higher esteem for it. But because I watched it when I was 23 years old, a little bit of a different story. So it sits right there at number 25. Number 24 is Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. Yes, I put this Friday sequel above The Burning and Maniac Cop. And trust me, that surprised me too. I actually expected this to be around the spot that Jason Takes Manhattan was, because for most of my life, I really didn't like this movie. And this time around, I got more enjoyment out of it. Yes, Jason Voorhees is not the killer. Spoiler alert from this movie from decades ago. It is Roy Burns or whatever his name is. But I like that he when he gets hit with shit, he takes the blow, like he gets hurt. Whereas, later after this we get Zombie Jason, who you could literally shoot a bazooka at, and he'd be like, yeah, whatever, I'm fine. Except for in Part 9. So it was nice to see a mortal slasher in it, pretending to be Jason Voorhees. And also, it's this weird dichotomy of, these kids in this mental institution are so well adjusted compared to the fucking Deliverance family that lives right across the lane. We get also Vi's really crazy dance moves to that song that ominously is, coming up behind her on. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I don't like Tommy's love interest. She has literally no impact on anything. You could remove her character entirely from the story and it'd be just fine. And then also Tommy Jarvis in this movie being this I get trauma happens. but he's just like a psychopath in this movie. Whereas like part 4 and part 6 felt like a more natural transition than this film did. So I'm not a big fan of part 5, but there are things in it. There's fun kills like a road flare to the mouth, and when Junior's going around on a dirt bike and he gets decapitated. There's fun to be had in this movie, whereas in some of the other Friday films there isn't. So number 24, that's where it sits. Number 23 is Shark Night. This is going to piss people off, I think, the most, that I put Shark Night above things like The Burning and Maniac Cop and Sleepaway Camp 2. Listen, Jaws is my favorite movie of all time. And I also just have a soft spot for shitty shark movies. And this one's a fun shark movie. I really wouldn't say it's a shitty shark movie. I mean, it's not like top in my list, but it's very enjoyable. It's about these kids who they're going to Sarah Paxton's family lake house, and what they don't know is the sheriff and some locals have brought in all these sharks and are going to videotape the sharks eating these fucking teenagers for internet views, because, you know, people got to do what they can to get clout. And so, like, I'm a big shark person. So, like, we get to not only see, you know, great whites, bulls, tigers, but we get to see motherfucking cookie cutter sharks swarm a chick. We get to see some hammerhead shark action. You know, we get some variety in our sharks in this movie, and that's fun. Donald Logue is really cool. I'm a big fan of his as far as anything he does. Joel David Moore is in it, and he's in one of my favorite horror films of all time, Hatchet. So there's some interesting performances in this film. And it's like a popcorn movie. You get together with some friends, get some snacks, maybe get some alcohol, and you just have fun watching this movie. Is it anything grandiose and that needs to be viewed in film schools? No. Did I genuinely have a good time putting it on my projector screen, laying on the floor eating popcorn and laughing my ass off? Yes, I did. And for that reason, number 23 it is. Also, another note about Shark Night is there's one really cool kill by a great white shark where Chris Zilka is on a jet ski and the shark literally comes out and bites his motherfucking face. Forgot to add that, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of clip this to the end of that video there. Back to number 22. Number 22 is Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. Jason versus a Carrie knockoff. Also directed by the late John Carl Buechler, who is a fantastic effects artist and avid shorts lover. Listen, this movie has hands down the best looking Jason as far as the design goes. The way, like, his like bones are coming out and shit. Everything's like all decaying, like when the mask comes off and you see like his grotesque face. Looks fucking awesome. And the chain around the neck. Also, this is the first portrayal of Kane Hodder as Jason Voorhees, and he really just fucking nails it. Not to say that there's been a lot of bad Jasons. It's just that I really like his take on the character. And also, it's an interesting concept to have someone who can have these telekinetic powers or whatever fight Jason, because, you know, usually he just grabs someone, boom, dead. But she can fight back, and she fucks him up with nails and fire and fucking dropping him downstairs and choking him out and electrocuting him and shit. Like, it's interesting to see Jason in this predicament, and even he's like, what the fuck is going on? And we get some... The MPAA fucked this movie up. They cut so much gore out, and then back then they didn't save footage for DVDs because that wasn't a thing. So we'll never see what John Carl Buechler's true vision in that film was because that footage no longer exists. And that's extremely saddening because if this movie could have had the full gore that it was meant to have, like the guy who gets his head, like he was supposed to have his head all the way crushed. And, Weekend at Bernie's get killed with the weed whacker. I was supposed to like really show that shit. And I'm sad we never got to see that. We got to see his vision of the film because I really would be interested in what that would look like. However, what we do get, it's enjoyable. It's just some of the teen characters, besides like the bitch character and our main protagonist, there's not a whole lot of good. Like the male love interest is so just boring. So overall, this movie is it's very enjoyable, but it's not great like some of the other Friday the 13th films. Number 21 is Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch. This movie, I grew up on Lilo and Stitch. I grew up on Disney, like a lot of kids. I love Lilo and Stitch has a soft spot in my heart, which you'll see later in this list. So I did a rewatch of the whole series, except for Leroy and Stitch. That will come in a later month because I couldn't quite get around to it in time. But I fucking love Lilo and Stitch. I fucking love it. Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch, lacks the heart that the first movie has. Because Lilo Stitch is gonna fucking die from this glitch. And she don't give a shit because she's trying to do this hula thing to feel closer to her mom. And so it just felt like they took two plots the TV show would have, like Lilo's trying to reconnect with her mother's hula, Stitch may explode, and they just smacked him into a movie to make some money. And nothing ever, it's kind of shoehorned that Stitch can't die at the end because that's just way too fucking dark for a Disney thing. But I never felt because in the first movie it's all about, finding your family. Like misfits coming together to be there for each other and learning to be better people because of it. That's a raw story, it's raw emotion. It never quite hit that, it just felt like they needed to make a sequel. And so because it lacks that heart, it falls this low. But because it's Lilo and Stitch, it gets to be above these other ones. And honestly, thinking about it, I could put it a little lower than some of these other films. But it's hard for me to watch a Lilo and Stitch movie and be like, garbage! But this is definitely the worst of the bunch. Number 20 is Friday the 13th, the original from 1980. This is actually a very interesting talking point because this may be one of the only original movies in a horror movie franchise that is universally just kind of meh for people. I don't really see this movie topping a lot of people's lists for Friday the 13th movies. I think mostly because it's vastly different. This was meant to be just a cash in off Halloween to make money, to get Sean S. Cunningham some traction, make some children's comedies. And it's got some really good stuff, but it's also got some really not so great stuff because the whole whodunit aspect of this movie doesn't really work because we don't meet Pamela Voorhees till the end of the film. So it's like, ooh, she was the killer all along, and you're like, okay, cool. Also, not super believable that she could toss bodies around like that. But I love Betsy Palmer's performance, the late Betsy Palmer. I thought she was fucking phenomenal in this role. I'm glad she did it. I'm glad they made it. Tom Savini does great effects. We get Kevin fucking Bacon in this movie, which is just a strange. You get to see a little Kevin Bacon ass. It's got some cool kills, like the arrow through the throat. The Bill getting like arrowed to the door. We don't see it happen, but we see the aftermath, and it looks cool. There's some good stuff, but there's also Alice is not my favorite final girl in the Friday franchise, and since she carries a lot of the movie, it kind of gets a down for that as well for me. But this is still a very important film, a very iconic film, and still a very watchable film. So all in all, I mean, 20 is not a bad spot for Friday the 13th to end up. Number 19 is the original Sleepaway Camp. This film I went into thinking I was going to dislike it more than I actually liked it. I liked it a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun. Whereas the second and third film go for a very ironic term, campy, crack and joke kind of format. This tries to take a serious approach, I guess. But it's just fucking goofy in a weirdly enjoyable way. Like, Ricky's mom, Angela's aunt, delivers her lines like she's giving an aside in a stage play. She's like, now, we wouldn't want them thinking that, now would we? And you're like, who the fuck are you talking to, lady? And she always says shit like that, and I found that just so interesting and such an odd choice that they kept in the movie. Also, the kids at this summer camp are either 13 or 30. There's like no in between, which I also think is hilarious. And everyone, whether it's the counselors, the 30-year-old campers, the 13-year-old campers, everyone's like a drop of a dime away from a full mental breakdown. Everyone's just fucking angry in this movie. It also has one of the best line deliveries, or lines I've ever heard in a horror film, where they're playing baseball. This is a long baseball scene. They really fucking shoehorned this baseball scene in there. And this one kid goes, eat shit and die, Ricky. And he goes, eat shit and live, Bill. And I'm like, brilliant, fucking savage. Also, we get some interesting kills in this one. Like, well, she doesn't kill the guy this way, but she dumps, like, there's this pedophilic cook who literally says, when the kids are approaching in the bus, he goes, back where I'm from, we call them baldies. And the other cook's just like, oh, you crazy guy. And it's like, no, that's fucking disgusting. Everyone's gonna act like he didn't just say that. Like, he just fucking said that. That's the most disturbing thing I've ever heard in my life. So he gets boiling water dumped on him, which is what I thought they should have had a little gorier kill for him. Or a kill, a confirmed kill. But he is the screaming uncomfortably on the ground for a while. And also we get a curling iron, like this main girl, the main bitch, right? Gets a curling iron in the vagina. That's fucked up. And everyone does, this does a lot better job with the whodunit, because everyone goes, oh, it's you. And then they get murdered. And then it turns out to be Angela Baker, who is revealed to have a dick, because it turns out she was her brother who survived this family boating accident because her dad was gay and seeing a guy on the side of his marriage, and they all died in boat accidents except for Peter. And she's like, well, I already have a boy with Ricky, so you're going to be Angela. And yeah, boom. Chick, dick, dead kid on a beach. Fucking brilliant. Sleepaway Camp, number 19. Number 18 is Friday the 13th Part 3D. Yeah, this movie's pretty fucking cheesy, but in a fun way. And also, I think I thought this would be lower on my list as well, and I ended up enjoying it even more on this. My friend Joe, this is actually his favorite Friday the 13th movie. And anyone who does have like a huge love for this movie, I understand why. Because this was during the return of the 3D in theater gimmick. And every third installment of a horror film did the 3D thing. Jaws 3D, Amityville 3D, Friday the 13th Part 3D. Uh, Backdoor Sluts 9 in 3D. Everything was 3D. And it's not even like today's 3D where it's like depth. It's like everyone reaches for the fucking camera thing. Like the guy goes to like hang up laundry and he puts the pole in front of the camera. Or they move the television antenna in front of the camera. It's fucking goofy. Because especially when you watch it, I watched it with my red and blues, which killed my vision even more. But some people, when you watch the 2D version, it's even weirder because people are just reaching. You know, like, why are they fucking reaching for shit like that? But it has Richard Brooks' interpretation of Jason. He's like this hunchback of Notre Dame motherfucker. It's also implied that he may have raped our main antagonist. But Chris is the final girl. I think she's one of my least favorite final girls because later if you count the Tommy Jarvis ones, then yes, the Friday 5 girl is the worst. And if you count the guys from the other ones, then there's even worse ones. Which really, Chris is one of my least favorite because she just doesn't really do a whole lot other than break down emotionally. Shelley should have been the main character, damn it. He's a nerdy actor who has trouble talking with ladies. I relate. So, we also get, Jason gets the iconic hockey mask in this movie. This is a very important film for the grand scheme of the franchise, for the iconic character that would become Jason Voorhees. And we also get the end scene in the barn is one of the coolest end chase scenes in the Friday the 13th franchise. It's a lot of fun in that barn scene. It's a little slow at points. A lot of the characters, like the stoners, are fucking nothing, and Chili's a really bad actor or actress. You're not getting grade A quality stuff, but it's still like the splits kill is fucking cool. The crossbow kill is fucking. It's the only time Jason shoots a fucking gun at somebody. All in all, this movie is a lot of fun. And again, if you're not going to be like amazing, groundbreaking cinema, just be fun. Make us have a very smooth 90 minutes, and I'm all fucking in. Number 17 is Jungle to Jungle. Yes, the Tim Allen movie that I actually grew up watching a lot, and I really did genuinely expect this film to be much higher on the list. However, this one just didn't really live up to my nostalgia this time around. Tim Allen and Sam Huntington knocked it out of the park. However, upon watching a lot of Tim Allen movies recently for some random reason, he always plays like the business guy that got to choose between family and business and crazy adventures. Like this and the Santa Claus are essentially the same thing. Just swap out Christmas with jungle stuff. However, where this movie really just doesn't work for me is the other characters. Like Martin Short, who I typically really love in movies, just kind of gets on my nerves here, and just Tim Allen's. And I mean, I know you're not supposed to like her, but his fiance, who's all highfalutin and everything, I don't know. It just doesn't flow very nicely for me, as much as I remembered it at least. This is something that maybe I should have just left in my childhood per se. However, it's not a terrible watch. It's at number 17. It's above a lot of other movies I still find very enjoyable. It's just, could have been better. Number 17. Number 16 is Friday the 13th, Part 2. A lot of people really don't have this one very high on their lists when it comes to the Friday the 13th films. I really enjoy this one. This is one I watched a lot when I was younger, and maybe that's part of it, but I get it. The concept is kind of silly when you think about it, because in the first movie, Jason drowned. That kind of drives the whole plot of the first film, that his mother was killing people in revenge of his death. Whereas this, he's like randomly not dead and an adult, and also I've been living here the whole time. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in retrospect. I understand that. But I really love, I love the Baghead Jason look. It's different. Now, I'm not saying I like it better than some of the later versions, but this is a really fun look. Super shitty to have to act in it because you can only see out of one eye hole. And doing stunts when you can only see out of an eye hole is really dangerous. So Steve Dash, R.I.P. brother, you did a good job. Also the Jason in this one, let's cut out all this itching. The Jason in this one, you know, when he gets hit, he feels the hits. And, you know, that's something when we get zombie Jason later, we don't really see as much. He just kind of takes bullets and then keeps walking. So it's kind of nice to see him take damage. Although, he's such a badass until, like, the final act where he's just super fucking clumsy for some reason. I also really love the character of Jenny. She's one of my favorite final girls in the Friday series between this and Megan from part 6. Because she outsmarts Jason. And if there's a reason why she outsmarts Jason, because she's getting a degree in psychology, so she uses this, you know, pretends to be his mother and uses it against him. So not only does it make sense of why she would be able to think about this, but she, you know, is able to have these thoughts. Also, I really love when she's hiding from Jason in the final act and she legit pisses herself. Because, yeah, you'd be fucking scared if some guy with a potato sack over his head just murdered all of your friends and is now coming after you. You would be a little terrified of that. And also, her and Paul have this really cute relationship, because a lot of the typical proto-slasher final girls are the virgin type of girls, but we kind of get the idea that her and Paul are in a relationship, and then they may or may not have banged. So, but they didn't bang in this movie, and that at least saved her life. We don't really know in the end if Paul is dead or not. And the ending where he jumps to the window at her, was it a dream sequence? And also, why are we having another dream sequence? The first 3 Friday the 13th movies end in a dream sequence, and it's very fucking stupid. I did not mention it in part 3's review, but yes, it also has his mom jump out of the lake for some fucking reason other than to be like, well, let's call it back to the first movie. I don't really like how they kept doing that. But I do love the look of this film. A lot of people say it's really slow, but I also like that the jokester character survives just because he decided to get drunk at a bar. We get that really cool, like, stab to the bed scene. Although for some reason when Jason slits a guy's throat, he has the machete turned the wrong way. It's a little goofy. But there's good and bad. I understand why this may not be on the higher echelon of someone's Friday the 13th list, but this is just a really fun slasher movie. So all in all, number 16, doing pretty good. Hey there, campers! In my review of Friday the 13th Part 2, I totally forgot to talk about one of the major gripes I had with the film. Alice and Ralph from the first film being killed off just like that. If you were gonna just have, like, if you're only gonna have like a 5-minute use of Adrienne King, why have her back at all? Like, why not just kill some random chick in the beginning? Also, the fact that Jason tracks her down to her apartment is just so fucking random in the beginning too. And Crazy Ralph just gets garroted with, I mean, it's a cool kill, getting garroted with the barbed wire, and Adrienne King getting the ice pick in the head, but I felt like we didn't really need to kill, well, Crazy Ralph kind of makes a little more sense, but Adrienne King doesn't make a lot of sense to kill Alice off so quickly. I wish they kind of would have just, I know she was going through some shit at the time, and she didn't really want to be involved with this film, but then just don't have her involved with the film at all, and then leave that for a sequel down the road, or at least leave it open, so in the future now, if we wanted to do something with it, we could, but now we can't because she's fucking dead. Granted, Jason was also fucking dead, and we just unwrote that, so I guess we could just make Alice a zombie as well. That would make it just as much sense as some other shit in this franchise. However, it all gets made up for because the chick in the Mickey Mouse t-shirt is fucking hot. You be the judge.